Today we play golf.
Let me show you how we do it in the pros.
Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
I never miss with the 7-iron.
A conversation with some of the most interesting innovators and entrepreneurs behind the biggest names in golf.
My friends with the golf clubs. I lived on the golf course. I lived on the driving range.
From pro talk
You should learn something from each and every single round you play in.
to fun from on and off the green.
Why would you play golf if you don't play it for money?
Just let me put the ball in the hole.
This is Behind the Golf Brand Podcast with Paul Liberatore.
What's up, guys? Paul from Golfers Authority. Welcome to the Behind the Golf Brand Podcast. We're on episode 87. Holy crap. Can't believe we're getting up there now. This week, I have my friend Brian Friederichs from Capstone Hospitality talking about private golf clubs in that world, which I know nothing about. And I find it fascinating because I've never been a member. We don't have that many places out here in Arizona that have that. And I think it's a cool world to learn more about and how it all works and what it's really like. So I'm really excited to have him on the show today. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. It's going to be fun.
Where are you located at?
Our headquarters are located in Neptune Beach, Florida. So it's the beaches of Jacksonville. Most people will recognize that we're about 15 minutes north on the same road as TPC Sawgrass. So very close to Palm Beach.
That's super close.
Very close. Very close.
I'm like 15 miles from TPC Scottsdale.
Nice. Have you played it?
Once.
Yeah.
It was
good?
fun.
Pretty good?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. TPC golf courses are generally pretty good.
They take really good care of them. They're really nice.
Yep.
I like to play the munis because it's cheaper.
That's
Right
what I
now,
do.
it's super hot, dude. It's like super hot outside. It's like 112, and
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
humid. And
It's
like,
humid? No, you don't know humid till you come down to Florida.
no, I know that's true. But in July and August in Arizona, we get these monsoons, and it gets so humid, and it rains the next night. But like the temperature doesn't drop, so essentially it's like 105, and it rained. And then the bad thing is when we have these storms, my friends own a golf course, and I was texting him, so I wanted to go shoot some content. And he's like, "Oh, golf course is closed this week." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, that storm like ripped up our course, like bad, like big old, like they have a bunch of what are those trees they have in Australia that are really dirty, eucalyptus trees, yeah.
Eucalyptus.
Like they drop everywhere."
They have those. They had a ton of those in South America when I was playing down there. I love them. They smell so good. So pleasant.
Oh yeah, they're pretty too, but they're messy as hell.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
like super messy. So I was like, "Oh man, really?" And I feel bad because it's like. Now they have to. It's like having a big yard. Now you have to go clean it up yourself, right? Like, unless you want to spend like 10 grand and hire a bunch of people to come clean it up for you. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're doing yard work for the next week."
I can barely take care of my little tiny yard. So,
can you imagine having this like big ass like?
Right.
I don't know how big the square foot. I don't know how many acres this is, but it's pretty big. Golf course, you have to like clean it up. Like, that'd be crazy.
Superintendent and the grounds crew. That's the unspoken heroes of the golf world.
Yeah,
they got a shitty job. They got a hard job.
And I think they're super early too. Like
very early. I've worked on a crew, a superintendent, or I was never a superintendent, but I've worked on a grounds crew at a golf course, like cutting bunkers, doing all that stuff. Man, it's hard work, and like it's so funny. The members or the public playing it, if like little things happen, right? Like nature affects golf courses. Right, then the superintendent just gets ripped, but it's like, literally to keep a golf course perfect, how people's expectations are is like very, very challenging.
I bet it's even more with like the private world too, right? Like if you're a member and you're paying tens of thousands of dollars, like it needs to be impeccable, right? I'm paying for this. Instead of going like, I'm going to my muni where I pay $25 to go play 18 holes. Who are you going to complain to? The city?
Exactly.
Like... And the guy who's the superintendent is probably superintendent of all the courses. So you're lucky it's even being mowed,
Yeah, exactly.
So where did you grow up at? Florida?
I grew up in South Florida. So we're in the northeast region, like literally the most far northeast you can go in Florida. And I grew up nearly the farthest southeast you can go in Boca Raton, Florida. I was born in Boynton, did a little stint in Deerfield Beach, and then from ages 5 to 18, I was in Boca. Then I went over on the west coast of Florida to Florida Gulf Coast University. Played golf there. Got my degree in resort and hospitality management. And then kind of made my way around and went all over the country, all over South America, Central America, ended right back up in Florida in the Northeast region.
So, did you are you a good golfer?
Used to be a pretty good golfer.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you play in high school?
Played junior
college?
Played high school, played college.
Is that D1 school? What kind of D is that?
It's D1. Yeah. It's a smaller D1 school.
So who'd you play against, and like who's in your region?
It kind of shifted a little bit because when I first came in there, it was a little smaller. Then we got, I think it was like Florida Sun Conference, something like that. So we were playing.
Yeah, but the competition's pretty tight though in Florida golf schools or
it is,
college.
yeah. I mean,
it's not like you're flying like, I mean, I think it'd be hard.
We were playing like University of South Florida, Florida Atlantic University, kind of that size of school.
Yeah.
We have
the
like
talent's probably really.
It's insane. Yeah. No, I mean, there's so many good golfers out there. I learned that pretty quick.
not this guy.
Not me anymore. It's funny though. And then
I'm a 4 handicap now, and I'm like, oh, poor Brian.
Oh, I don't even know what I am. So I played professionally for 4 years as well, and like so.
And what league was that? What was that in, like Korn Ferry or some other? What it was?
Yeah, so pretty much every mini tour you could imagine, and then I did qualify for what is now the PGA Tour Latino America. It was called the Tour de las Americas when I was doing it. So that was
when was that? Like when did you graduate college?
Graduated in 2008. I actually started the business Capstone Hospitality. I graduated in December of 2008. 2009, I got recruited by a company called Three Oaks Hospitality, and a guy named Jim Tuminello, who's now our executive vice president of Capstone. But anyways, he was like, what are you doing after college at the time, right? It was 2008. Graduating with resort and hospitality, really kind of crummy time to graduate with resort and hospitality.
Yeah, like right when the market dumps.
Exactly. So like I was flying all around the country trying to find jobs at hotels, resorts, and everyone's like, man, we're laying off people. We're not hiring anyone. So I played golf with a guy named Jim Tuminello. He asked me what I'm doing. I said, I don't really know. He says, I think you might be pretty good at this membership thing. I was like, oh, okay. At the time, I played muni golf, played collegiately, was never a member at a club. My parents were both teachers. They weren't members of clubs. So I really wasn't in that world much at all.
So you're an outsider.
I'm an outsider. Yeah. And so he's like, I think you might be really good at this. Let me set you up with this company. Their model was they were like a subcontractor model. So they would come in, they would do like assessments. They would do strategic plans for clubs on membership side. They would subcontract out people to come in and help them with it. So they were like, yeah, we'd love to work with you, but we don't have employees. You have to form your own company. And at the time, right, I'm fresh out of college. I'm like, oh, okay, what does that mean?
You're like, no money, like a little bit of experience.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay. So I formed Capstone Hospitality in 2009. I did a couple projects with PGA of America, PGA Village in Port St. Lucie. We did Naples Bay Resort. And then I always had the itch to try to play for a living. I just never had the money to do it. And I wasn't good enough to where directly out of college, I had lucrative endorsement deals, anything like that. So I worked for a couple of years, saved up enough money, played in my first 2 professional events, and I won both of them. And so I'm like, shit, this is going to be easy. So I turned pro, I got some sponsorships, and then never won again. So went out and played for 4 years, made a couple little swing adjustments. I hit the ball really long. I used to hit it really long. But with that came under pressure situations, I'd hit a hard hook. And that was really hard to control. So I was like, all right, I want to eliminate the whole left.
And you're playing professionally, so you're always under stress. It's not whenever I'm under a lot of stress. It's like what? Like when you're leading maybe, and then
exactly.
Sudden, when I'm in the hunt, and all of a sudden you start choking like crazy. You start being Greg Norman.
Exactly. Just pull, snap hook one out of bounds, make an 8.
And then there goes everything. Now it's all mental at that point. Now great, there it goes. Here it comes.
So, but I was lucky enough to do it for 4 years. I had some great sponsorships and traveled all over the country, all over South and Central America.
That'd be kind of cool though. And you're how old? 22, 23?
Yeah, it was from 23 to 27 is when I did it.
So was that your full-time job?
Yeah, it
You have
was.
to be.
Yeah,
You're an
Yeah.
athlete. You're just trying to like make a cut.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And
So do they pay for your like fees to get in the tournament and all that?
yeah, the way it worked is like I would get like a lump sum each year from my sponsors,
And then now you have to manage the money and be like,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
if I really, you might have to come out of pocket maybe if you don't like.
Oh, the first couple of years, it kind of taught me a lot about business too, and just running a business. Because the first year, I ran out of money like with like 4 months left, and I'm like, oh no. So I like got a caddying job and was looping on the sides just to like pay down credit card debt, and then I would get the dump of the
Did you
money.
freaking know that was like the best time of your life? If you say it wasn't, you're lying. Because
Oh no, it was incredible.
Like if you had a time machine, you like I do it every day the rest of my life like that. Like that's like
it was
it's stressful, but it's like still fun.
I don't know. I like business, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. The my last year was the most fun. South America was incredible, but man, it tore my stomach up. Like going,
Really?
I'm an adventurous eater, right? So I'm eating like cow heart, these crazy like eyeball ceviche in Peru, like all this wild stuff. Whereas like my buddy that I traveled with, he's just getting like chicken and rice, and he was fine the whole time, and I'm just like puking and stuff. But anyway,
I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly. It was a blast, but my last year was the most fun. I got an RV and I traveled around just doing a lot of Mondays and
you got an RV in South America and you're just like enjoying it and living the life.
No, that was in North America. So I flew back. I was like, all right, I think I'm good on South America for a while, even though I love South America. I surf. I love that culture. But I was like, all right, I'm going to do Mondays. I was playing really well. My last year, I missed 5 Mondays by 1 shot. So I was firing some good numbers. It was pretty brutal. So that's when it started clicking for me that like, and then I started getting some injuries and I was like, all right, maybe I'm not supposed to play golf for a living. But it kind of segued into business, right? Because I'm like, man, what am I going to do? And I just spent 4 years like grinding out on tour, putting all of my effort and energy into this. Like, what am I going to do? And so I went back to the membership side of things. And again, during this period of time, right, you're talking like
12, 13.
Yeah, 11, 12, really 10, 11, 12, 13. It's not a good time for country clubs, right? Like they just went through a recession. No, you just went through a recession, right? Like membership is one of the first things to go when a recession hits, which we're coming into again, potentially. And so I made it like a routine because I worked in the industry my whole life, right? Being a bag guy, picking the range, working on the grounds crew, waiting tables, all that stuff. I would just always go in because like pros, general managers, they never get thanked enough, in my opinion. Right? They're
It's
like
a thankless job, right? I mean,
it
like
really is.
Because a pro wants to teach, he doesn't want to freaking work the front desk, and he doesn't want to sell shit and pick up phone calls. Like essentially, it's like you're doing 100 jobs at once, and the one job you want to do, you never get to do it. You can spend like this much time doing, which is teaching.
Yeah, it's a tough gig, man, and so I would just always go in and thank them for hosting the tournament, talk to them briefly, kind of find out how their club is doing. And like almost every single one I would talk to, because I had this history in membership sales as well, they'd be like, oh, we can always use more members. We can always use more members. So I kind of always had it in the back of my mind that like, this is an opportunity. And so I got knocked out of second stage at Q School that year. This was 2013. I got a call saying, hey, there's an opportunity up at the Golf Club of Amelia Island, which is an amazing property. It's right on a Ritz-Carlton. And, they're not able to sell memberships. They're on this island. It's 12,000 people.
What can they sell?
Yeah, they just weren't doing it right.
They know what they're doing.
They had a great product. They weren't being really proactive in sales, right? They had somebody. So this is kind of like moving into kind of what I feel is wrong in this quintessential membership director role that you see.
Yeah, I want to hear this because I don't know. This is
yeah. Okay. So in private clubs, right, you have all sorts of different dynamics at play. You have board run clubs. Those are equity clubs. You have individually owned clubs.
So equity clubs. All right. So an equity club would be what? Like who?
The members
You
own
buy
it.
in, right? You buy into the club. A person does, and then what?
So if it's an equity club, right, and you're buying an equity membership, you have voting rights. You're considered an owner of the club, right?
Okay.
Equity clubs are owned by the members, and there's usually board of governors. They have then break off committees, right? They have a golf committee,
Jesus.
they have membership committee, they have food and beverage committee, and it's a good member experience, right? Because
They're really involved. They're like,
they're
oh,
really
I own
involved.
it. They
Yeah,
want to
they're
be.
not. Yeah, and they're not so.
There's a lot of bullshit too, though. Like, I bet you have your
Exactly.
clicks and like your problems, and people probably like, I'm out. This is too much bullshit for me.
It does happen, and there's some really good board run clubs, and there's some not so good board run clubs.
So there's pros and cons to it.
There are pros and cons.
So to be an equity club, like, what is the most money you've ever seen for an equity club to be a member?
Like, how much?
join.
Like an initiation fee?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, they can get big. You can get 350,000, 400,000 joining. But typically, right, those are like the elite style clubs.
There's a club, I can't think of the name of it, so I'm glad I'm not going to get my friend in trouble, but he was telling me it's a pretty famous club. I'm not going to say where it's at either, but he said that like he had to interview and he had to have a letter of recommendation from 2 members of the club.
Yeah. That's pretty standard.
And it was like he had to travel across the United States because the members did not live in the state that he was in. Like essentially they were like the CEO of like fucking like say Coca-Cola or some shit.
Right.
Like, you know, like that, like crazy traveling. You have to bro it up, become friends with the person, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, you're cool. Yeah, here's one letter recommendation. And it took him 2 years to get that. And he's like, and he's a very wealthy man.
Yeah.
And owns a very big development company. And like he's like, yeah, I did that for 2 years to get into this club.
It's nuts. It's
not really that true? Does that really happen? Like,
oh yeah, that happens. And in some instances, it's a good thing, right? It like promotes the exclusiveness.
Yeah, because once you're in, you're in. They're like, oh yeah, he passed the test. He's been hazed, right? Like, yeah, it's not like, oh yeah, you have $1 million. Okay, here's $1 million. You're on in, and nobody likes the guy.
Yep. But for the most part, right, for 90% of the clubs out there, in my opinion, they shouldn't be doing all these things. Like it's a pretty antiquated way of doing things, right? Like we've gone into clubs where they still do like home visits before you can join the club. They literally like go out and sit down with you and your family and interview you. I'm just like, what? Like that's what some of the craziest things I've ever heard.
And they want your money too. It's not like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. So anyways, you have
equity club.
You have all these different dynamics. Again, sometimes they can be very, very positive, but a lot of times equity clubs move very slow to make decisions. They don't really
because there's so many agendas, right? Like some people don't want change, or some people don't want blah or whatever.
Exactly. And then it gets passed on to the next board meeting, which isn't for another month, right? And so that is why a lot of equity clubs, especially in downturns, struggle. And you get companies like Concert Golf, who's one of our clients, great client. You get Heritage Golf, you get Club Corp, you get these big club purchasing groups that come in and gobble these clubs up, right? Because they're run so poorly. They're not smart with their capital reserves. They're not pushing sales like they should be. And they get into what
they're not running like a business. They're running it like their own personal club.
That's right.
When it's like not a club, like it has to survive. It's not like.
That's exactly right. So that's kind of what we preach is like, hey, there's a great balance here, right? That can be accomplished. And sometimes it is necessary for a company like Concert Golf to come in and recapitalize a club because they need $10 million on infrastructure that they can just never raise. But more times than not, right, by applying some simple fundamentals and driving revenues, clubs can be in great places. And there's a lot of great club managers out there that can manage a good property when they have revenue coming in. So that's kind of the foundation of what Capstone was built on, right? Is you have this standard membership director that's in a club, right? And typically it's a person that doesn't have a ton of golf experience. They're more of like a social calendar type driver. Their member services, They're doing member events. They're answering billing questions. They're doing all of this other stuff. They're making newsletters, right? They're not really focused on.
They don't get paid all that much money. They probably don't make jack shit.
Yeah, they maybe make $70,000 a year or something like that.
It's a lot of work, and they're never even getting to the whole core of the thing, right? The core of the thing is getting members, not
getting more members.
Being what's that director on a cruise ship? Like, whatever, like a cruise director, like person that goes around. Like, that's like they're doing that, and they're trying to get more members, which is never going to happen.
It's never going to happen, right? And so that is kind of like what I pinned down when I was kind of assessing and observing all these different clubs across the markets. Is like that is the single greatest thing, in my opinion, and it's backed with a lot of data that prevents clubs from being financially stable long term, right? What you've seen over the past 2 years is an anomaly, right? Everybody knows it, right? Membership, private clubs, public clubs, they all saw this massive boom through COVID, right? But what has happened is we've seen a lot of, even some of our own clients, where they're like, oh, they're feeling fat and happy. Right. They're like, oh, we're good. We're in this great place. They start pulling the trigger on these big capital improvements. They're taking on
big ones, like big ones. Like multi-million-dollar improvements. Like, oh yeah, we're going to redo all the walls.
And I'm like, you're nuts. You're nuts. Like, this is not going to.
You guys need to be banking cash right now.
Exactly. Bank it. Right.
No,
if you
really cool,
right. If you build up a wait list, right, that's 5 years deep. Okay, do whatever you want. Spend the money you want. And so that's what we're trying to get a lot of our, and we have been able to get a lot of our clients to that point where they're on 3+ year wait list. And right now I'm talking to them saying, hey, I don't know if you really need us anymore, but they're like, no way, keep selling, right? They get it. So that's what happens in clubs, right? You get these membership directors. They're not salespeople. They don't understand how to market. They don't understand how to take people through a good sales process. They're more of member services, which
is fine.
That's an important role.
They need somebody to help them make sales. Like, they need to, like, that's the missing piece. Not, is it a fun, cool club to be in?
Yeah.
It's more like, we need more members. How are we going to get more members?
Yeah, they need to market to the right demographic, and then they need to take them through a good sales process and follow up diligently and close them, plain and simple. And I have secret shopped hundreds of clubs. Whenever we come in, whenever we sign with a club, we come in, we do full due diligence. We look at all their membership categories. We look at their bylaws, their rules and regulations, do a full assessment of their club amenities.
You're like, oh, that's stupid. You shouldn't do that. And you're like, make this nicer.
The biggest thing we see is, like, most clubs over time have kind of dropped their pants, right? And they've offered all of these different membership categories. It's kind of like the Chipotle model, right? So we've gone into
15 different membership models.
Oh, like 40 plus different membership categories.
You're in sales, bro. You're in sales, right? So the rule. I learned this because I used to be in sales a long time ago, and I learned this. My mentor told me. I remember this because he's like, this is in real estate. He says, remember, we're driving, right? He's like, remember this. One thing you remember. He goes, this is what my mentor told me, and he owns half of Sedona now. Sedona, Arizona, it's a big resort area.
Yeah.
He goes, this is his mentor told him. He goes, a cluttered mind says no. He's like, remember that. He's like, if a client stops talking, you shut up. He goes, because you've now overloaded them. And I was like, and I always remembered that. And I think it's like, so like, same thing. It's like, you give somebody 40 options. It's like, what the fuck? Give me 3. That's it. Like,
max, like maybe even just 1 or 2.
Maybe 2, right? Like the expensive one and the not so expensive one, and like you get 1 or 2, and you'll know the difference because then not 40. Jesus Christ,
it's nuts. It just promotes downselling. That's all it promotes, right? It's like you're giving people options to pay less money, and the market has been so good, so hot that it's so foolish to do. So you pair that, right? Like an unorganized approach. They're kind of just like flailing around. They're picking up what's coming in. They're getting in, online inbound inquiries. They're getting phone inquiries. They're getting member referrals, right? These are organic things that are just going to happen at the club, but they're not doing anything else, right? They're not like hosting realtor events. They're not, doing ambassador programs. They're not doing geofencing ads. They're not
making content. They're not they're not doing any social. They're like not inviting influencers to come play. They're not like whatever, like low end hanging fruit that wouldn't cost all that much money to create. Like, they're not doing any of that. They're just like, oh, it's like it's like a small business, right? That's what a small
Yeah.
business does. Like they go, oh yeah, I don't really run ads. Why? Because I don't want to
Right.
spend the money on it. Well, then you don't want any business
Right.
because
Yeah.
like one time I worked for, I'm not gonna say, I worked for a company once, and I was like, oh, do you have a website? And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, can I see it? And I was like, it was okay, and he's like, I'm like, so I'm like, I look, I'm like, can I see your traffic? They get no
Yeah.
traffic, and I was like, yeah, because you're not running ads.
Right.
And your website sucks, and you have no articles, so like no one's gonna like find your site. So like you literally, I told my person, I said it's like having a billboard in the desert. Like no one's ever gonna see it, like essentially.
Right.
So it's like, and then
It's a good visual.
you can't argue with stupid people, dude. Like,
It's a good visual. Yeah, so that's kind of what we do. We played with the model for the first year or so. I would go into clubs and I would basically give them a roadmap. I'd say, okay, this is what you need to do. And what you would see is you would see like a quick little spike in revenue, and then it would just like revert back to existing, numbers because the old habits would pop back in and they wouldn't get proactive. The salesperson was getting, or the membership director was getting bogged down in other activities.
yeah, there's something else. It just falls to the wayside again. It's nothing against the person. It just
No, it's nothing
there's
against.
only so many hours in the day.
It's just like you have an operation and member relations minded person, which again, an important role within a club, trying to do that while also trying to bring in new members. Like it doesn't take a genius to figure out that like, oh, okay, if you bring in somebody that's actually focused directly on bringing in members and that other person is still focusing on servicing and onboarding the members, like that's a pretty powerful combo. And that's why we've seen these massive like on average, our clubs, after the first year that we come in, they see a 407% increase in initiation fee sold. I mean, that's massive, right? And it's because of the process that we do. It's because of the outreach that we do. It's because of the whole team effect, right? We come in, we do the strategic plan, we figure out exactly where we're going, we make budgets, we make an advertising plan, a marketing plan, we rework brochures, we bring in video content, we do everything. We supercharge it. And then we bring in one of our highly trained salespeople that's specifically trained in membership sales for country clubs to come in and sell full time. So
they hire you to come in, get all that stuff figured out, set up, and then you have a salesperson working for them to help them sell the membership, essentially.
That's right. Yeah, it's an employee of ours. So we
So it's like consulting fee, or it's probably some kind of whatever.
It's based off sales, right? So like we have a monthly fixed fee, very small. Like we don't make any profit on it, and then we get commissions on sales.
It covers costs, probably. Maybe it covers costs of like
right?
the person, and then like it's like okay, let's see if you guys can shine, right? Like okay, it's commission based. If we sell 1,000 things, we did awesome. But like essentially, which is like easy. It's a no brainer for them because it's like such low risk. It's like the cost is like nothing.
It's much lower risk actually than like the existing way that they do it. Because you have a whole
existing way now is they have the same person who does multiple jobs, do everything, including that, which does not mean they're going to get people to sign up.
Yeah, not just that, but like, right, like, and we're not immune to people issues, right? Like people are wild cards. They move, they get sick, they get disinterested, they get burnt out. There's all these things that happen. But with us, like there's an entire team behind it. And we're tracking all of these metrics constantly. We see how many calls they're making daily. We see how many emails. We see how many touch points. We see how many lead gens. We see all the data. So when things are starting to slow down, boom, we're instantaneously on it. If we have to make a change, literally the next day, there's someone in that seat from our corporate team that's carrying the momentum, right? Like I've seen so many clubs where they're coming into their peak season and the person resigns, they're moving to Florida or wherever it may be. And they're like, oh my gosh, like now we got to do a search. We have to vet people. And it's still the same risk. Like you're losing 3-4 months of peak sell season. And then you're placing someone in there that could be good, could not be good. You never know with salespeople, right? You never know until they get into the seat.
Well, that's the thing too. Like how incentivized are they when they're an employee, right? Like, oh yeah like, okay, I still get paid my salary, but like if I sell 1,000 new people sign up, I still get my salary. Exactly. Like there's no incentive to like push. I mean, at least in sales, right? Like where's the incentive?
They typically get small incentives, but the bulk is in a base, right? So you're right. Like there's no real pressure whereas ours bulk is
Yeah.
in commission. So if we are not selling, or the salesperson is not selling, number one, they're not going to still be there. But number two, they're not going to make much money at all, right? So like they have to sell. We have to sell in order to make the money we need to make. So it really benefits the club. It benefits us. We've seen it change the dynamic so much in clubs, where it's like, that's probably the most fun that I have with this job is like, even when I was personally doing it and going into clubs, right? You go into clubs that are kind of down and out, kind of struggling a little bit. And like, you look at the waiters, the waitresses, you look at the front house staff, you look at the cart guys, you look at the pro shop.
Everybody's like just sad.
Yeah, everybody's just down, right? And then because it's boring, there's no one in there, there's no blood, there's no like energy, right? And you come in and you start growing it and you start bringing the energy. Now all of a sudden they're making more money in tips.
Yeah, because everyone wants to be on a winning team. Nobody wants to be on like a
So, and seeing that dynamic and that culture and seeing all the new members come in and they're starting to make relationships with existing members, it's just a lot of fun. Clubs can be an incredible place for culture and developing relationships. And so that's one of the things that we thrive on, is just coming in there and helping with that and just blowing it up. So it's been fun. We've worked with over 70 clubs across the country. We've partnered with some big name clubs. We just signed with the Nemacolin Woodlands Resort out in Pennsylvania, which is wild. We're actually creating the most exclusive, most expensive resort style membership in the country. It's going to come with like full butler service, all this crazy stuff. So we'll have to maybe get you out there and see it.
Yeah, we should talk about the show about that. About that
cool.
kind of thing. That's cool because I have some ideas too.
It's wild. It's so wild. This place is so incredible. It has 2 golf courses, it has like sport clay shooting, all these different pools. It has ski slope. It has zip lines. It has high ropes courses. It has off-road driving. They have like lions and bears running around. They have this wildlife sanctuary. Like when I took the tour, I'm like, what is happening here? Like, where are we? But it's wild. Fly fishing, all this stuff. So it's a cool place. It's very unique, very whimsical. So it'll be fun.
What? Where's that at?
It's like just outside Pittsburgh. It's just outside Pittsburgh. It's in Pennsylvania. Yeah,
I've heard of Nemacolin. They own a bunch of courses. They own a bunch of stuff, don't they?
No, so it's owned by the people who own 84 Lumber Company. So it's just been their like kind of fun project. So they've
their
just,
playground. Yeah, like
exactly.
They have so much freaking money. They're like, oh, we'll do something crazy and cool.
That's what it feels like. And now people are going to be able to experience it as members. It's like there's a private landing strip for private jets on it. So it's like that's kind of the crowd we're going after, where it's going to be a special place to be a member at. So that'll be a cool one.
So when you come in to like, let's say I have a club, right? You come to me and you're like, okay, this is like what do you offer me as a club? Like, you're going to handle all of my sales, right? To help me get my and then you give me a roadmap and be like, okay, here's our goals. Here's what we're trying to do. And then are you also consulting them on how to make their club better outside of the sale process and all that? Like how to really run this club so it's efficient?
Yeah, we don't focus so much on operations because we trust like the general managers. We have a pretty lengthy interview process with clubs before we partner with them. So we want to make sure that they have like appropriate management in place so that they can handle the growth, because we know we're going to grow the membership. We know that for a fact. So a lot of what we kind of learned initially is sometimes when we bring in 120, 130 new high quality members, we grow the initiation fee up significantly. So it reduces attrition. Sometimes clubs can't handle the influx of members, right? So we just want to make sure that like, okay, you guys can handle this, right? You're set up for success.
Yeah, because you don't want to manage your club for them. You want to manage your membership. Like you're like, let us manage getting people in the door.
You guys manage them once they're in the door.
This is not our club. This is your club. You guys run this club. We're just doing this is our job.
We look like an employee of the club. Like a prospect coming in would never know that the person taking them through the sales process is an outside company. They wear the logo. They would never know. But yeah, it's like you guys, we'll bring the members in. You guys manage them. But good advice on like in particular amenities. So like say, we go to an area, a good example, we signed with a club in Alpharetta, a little bit older club. It was made predominantly a golf club. but it's in this like massive neighborhood where it's like all families, and there was no family activities whatsoever. And so we're like, you're not really marketing to your demographic that's here. You're marketing to just like a golfer, right? And most people around here are going to want some form of activity for kids. So we kind of advise, hey, you need to set up a kids club. We need to do outdoor dining, more casual style things. And so they did
like
that.
let these people do that. Oh, it blew up.
It blew up. Yeah, we signed up like 400 people in the first year. So it's been a really good success story.
Yeah, because parents want something like that, and they're already in the neighborhood or nearby, and it's like, why would you not have? But see, it takes that time to figure that out, right? And like think about it, and like sometimes you're just like, well, I don't want to
right.
do that.
It kind of sometimes just takes a fresh set of eyes in any business, right? It's like you bring in a fresh set of eyes that has seen so many different operations, and we can usually,
because you have like 10 years of experience, like seeing this in other clubs, like you've been behind the scenes and all these other places, and you're like, yeah, this, and then you also look at what's going on then you look at, then take that, and then you look at the individual club and where they're located and the demographics and the income and like everything about that area, and you're like, look,
exactly,
this is what you guys need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
And here we'll help you with this part of it, but this is what you guys need to do.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
At least. So are they? Would you consider yourself a consultant then?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of a combo, right? Like we are a consultant and a management company in the form that we manage we're a turnkey solution. So say a club, like maybe they have a membership director, maybe they don't have a membership director, maybe they're on a flip of membership directors, whatever. They would call us up, and basically we would come in and operate their entire membership department and make sure that people are being sold and onboarded appropriately, and then they manage it. And that's really like, if you talk to a lot of our clients, that's what they love about it. General managers will routinely say like, man, I love that we have Capstone in here because I don't have to worry about membership at all. And membership is the lifeblood of a club. So then they can focus more on just servicing the members, which pairs really well, because if you're servicing the members well, you're really focusing on your operation and amenities, then your attrition rates are going to go down, right? And you're going to have success across the entire board. So,
how many clubs are you working for right now?
So we have 25 active clients. So we have 25 where we are actively managing the membership sales across.
And they're located all across the United States.
Yeah, all across, predominantly in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and Southeast, and then some peppered in the Midwest.
So you have to have somebody on site?
Yeah, we have someone on site at every single one of those clubs.
So when you onboard, if you see, let's say I had a club and it's in Arizona, and I'm like, okay, I hire you. You'd have to hire somebody to be in Arizona to manage that club, because they have to be on site every day doing their job.
Yep. So we're constantly recruiting people. We have a full-time recruiter. We have full-time trainers. We have full-time club launchers. So really we have a big system to where we can handle 25 clubs. We've kind of purposely stayed around the 20 to 30 club mark at one time, because that's what we could kind of manage and stay really, really hyper focused on.
Yeah.
But over the last year, we've been able to build out the infrastructure to take on 50, 100 clubs. And that's our goal, is to get to 100 active clubs within the next couple of years.
So you just need more people, essentially, right? Like
more people, more clubs.
Yeah.
Yep. More people.
So what are you seeing What are you seeing right now in terms of the market? Like what's happening right now, as of right now, with in private club world and golf and the economy, like you were saying before, is it still pretty stable, or is it starting to decline a little bit, or?
Kind of decline. So we track all metrics, and really like the canary in the coal mine. And we sent out a letter to our clients 2 months ago, alerting them of this. But the canary in the coal mine is inbound leads, right? Organic inbound leads, right? Because some clubs are going to do better in different markets with different things. So when I'm talking organic, I'm talking website inquiries, phone call inquiries, things like that. January, February were pretty stable compared to year over year, right? March was down. I may get these numbers slightly wrong. March was down, I want to say like 13%. Then April was down like 38%. Then May was down like 51%. June bounced back a little bit and was down about like 40%. But the inbound leads are significantly less that are coming in, right? And
So what do you think that is?
It makes sense. Like, think about it, right? Like,
Well, but we're up so high too. It's like
that's
we're
exactly
up like
right.
200% or something crazy. Like you're down 40. It's like, dude, we're still up 150%. Like it
No,
can't go
and
on forever like this.
That's why I tell people like it's not so much a downtrend. I think it's just leveling back off to where it was.
It's like real estate.
Exactly. It's you think about it, right? Like, why did we see the boom during COVID? It wasn't that just like magically.
Literally the only sport you could play.
Exactly. It wasn't
Like,
just
literally.
like, oh, all of a sudden, you know, all these new
Everybody loves
golfers.
golf. It's cool now.
No, it's literally like the only thing you could do in a lot of different places. So naturally, you couldn't travel, couldn't go on cruises, you couldn't do the kids' sports were canceled.
Everything was canceled.
Everything
You
was
couldn't even
canceled.
go anywhere. You couldn't.
Right.
You go to public parks. You couldn't go to national parks.
Yeah,
You couldn't do shit.
couldn't do anything. So what could you do, right? You could
Work from home.
join a club. You could go play golf, right? These are the things that were like open and available. So boom, like organic increase just massively shot up, right? And then now they're starting to taper off because now you can travel again. You can go on cruises. Kids' activities is like back up. Like there is now competition for recreational activity again. So these clubs that are like, oh, we're fat and happy, we're in a great place. We talk to like so many different clubs across the country. And the clubs that were like really in a bad spot before, boom, they see this like quick little spike. Like, oh, we're good. And I'm like, okay. You know, like literally nothing has changed in your business model. You haven't, like, you're just going to revert right back to where it is. And it's great that we saw this boom. It's awesome. So many clubs. The smart clubs are being proactive about it, right? They're building out wait lists, right? If they get to one of the other things that's happening is, right, like even just golf rounds were up significantly, right? So say your membership didn't grow immensely. Maybe it only grew 30% or something like that. But like the people that are members there are playing a lot more golf, right? They're working remote, they're doing all these things. So then it starts feeling like the course has some compaction issues. Now all of a sudden you got your groups bitching because it's like, oh, we can't get a tee time on Saturday like we always could. We can't get this, we can't get that. And then so you get these groups of people saying, we need to cap our membership, stop selling members, you know? And it's just like, no, that's actually the worst thing you can do. You need to, if you want to cap your membership, fine, but build out a deep wait list so that inevitably when you start getting resignations, when the sales start slowing, your dues line isn't going to drop. You don't have to assess members. You don't have to raise dues, all this shit that like puts people into this downward spiral and gets them into a really bad spot to where they have to sell, right? So that's kind of where we're at right now.
It's like
still
running a
great
business,
spot.
dude. It's like literally like running a company. It's like,
What's
know,
up?
It's like running a business.
It is.
It's just like but the one factor you have is now you have like your members complaining because they can't get the tee time they wanted, or you're packed bumper to bumper on every hole. And it's like, if you've been to any golf course in the United States, they're all like this. So like,
Right.
you
All
know,
of
so it's
them.
like
Yeah.
just because you had the same tee time for the last 30 years doesn't mean you're going to get it now because you like,
Yeah.
but
There's a
they
lot-
might because they're on the board, you know, like it's just,
Exactly right.
it's like a double-edged sword. It's like you want the people there, but then you don't want the people there. And it's like, oh, what do you do?
Right. So, well, I think you develop out a wait list and stack it really deep. That's the answer. And you also,
Yeah, because you have a warm lead, right? They're wanting to do it. And obviously you guys want to close it, right?
Yeah.
Because you like right at the finish line. And then it's like, well, they're going to be on the wait list. Now you're like, well, now we're like 50-50 chance that this guy's going to come back, right? Or like,
well, no. If you get them on a wait list, though, like what we advise our clients is you do a non-refundable deposit to get on the wait list. A lot of clubs aren't doing deposits. They'll just put people on the wait list. I'm like, well, you don't really have a wait list, right? Like,
yeah, you got to get some money. You got to get something so they feel vested.
yeah, I get some skin in the game. And there's all sorts of strategies to it. Like, again, the very smart clubs, right? Like if you look at your corporate run clubs that are like looking at the bottom line and figuring it out, what they're doing is like through all of this, they're forcing attrition. So they're basically looking at subcategories, right, that have maybe been sold over the course of 10 years. Right, your group memberships, your preview style memberships.
Oh yeah, like get rid of like when they like 50 options, get rid of 49 of them. Right,
Exactly.
Because now's a good time to do it, because if you don't want to stick around, fine. We have 50 other people want us to pay full price, and
exactly.
Like you had a stupid offer anyways 20 years ago.
Why don't you own a club and we'll work together? We'd kill it.
We would.
You get it, and so it's convincing, right? Boards and general managers that, hey, you're
it's because you're an outsider, and so am I, dude. Because like
Yeah.
I'm not ingrained in this world, and like I'm just looking
Right.
at it like it's money. It's just basic dollars and cents.
Exactly. It's basic business sense, and that can be challenging.
There's probably a lot of ego involved too, though. I bet there's a ton of ego,
That's awesome.
especially with not with you guys, because you're like, we want to do our job, we want to get paid, but like with everybody on the other side, right? Like whoever it is, like the director, the pro, the member, the board, all these people, all this ego involved, and it's like they have their own agenda as to why they don't want to do what they want to do.
Or like they're getting pushed by a group of their buddies. Say they're the board president. And
they're peer pressure, right? Like, it's your buddies that you play golf with every week, and they don't want to do it. Well, now you're gonna piss them off.
That's a big thing. But no, overall, like, look, like I've said this countless times to people that want to talk to me about it. It's just like, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here, right? Because it's not. Like, we're still crushing.
No, it's not. It's just
the golf industry is still crushing it. But there are signs, and you talk to any industry style person out there, and they're going to tell you the exact same thing. Like,
here's what I've seen this year, at least. I've seen, similar to what you said, January, February. I look at traffic, right? Like the interest in golf generally and products, right?
Okay.
So January, February, same thing, stable. March, it's the Masters. You get this huge wave, right? Like this spike.
Yeah.
It lasts until after the Masters, pretty much for the month of April. I think people are tired of winter. Oh, cool, it's warming up, right? And then May's a shit month. It goes back down because it's like no one's really golfing yet, even though you think it would be. And then June, you think it's going to be June, July should be your biggest months. July should be the July 15th to August 15th should be the peak, I would say. It's probably doing the same thing. It's
depending
not
on your market.
Yeah, depending on your market. Here, no. Where you're at, yes. And like I feel like we're at a disadvantage, both you and I, because we're in states that you can golf year round, right? So like I always forget that like you can't golf in Pennsylvania in November, right? Or March. So it's like it's very cyclical.
It's actually kind of interesting. It's this data point that our VP of membership sales, Greg, just brought to us, because he was just analyzing all the data. And it just reminded me of that when you said that, is like, for instance, Florida's numbers have not dropped at all. Like they're still strong.
Arizona hasn't either. Are you kidding me?
That's what I'm saying, right? The areas that are dropping.
Bro, you could not, like, honestly, it was up to after Memorial Day is when when you should start getting tee times. Like not, I mean everywhere, Muni, it didn't matter. And it's like, it's packed. Like, and these are up the ass. Like they're like so high right now. Like if you want to play boulders, in March, it's going to be $300. You know what I mean? Like, or something crazy. Like you can get top dollar, you can get, whatever. If you want to play Muni, it's like $60 with cart. It's like some shitty Muni. Like now I can play that same golf course for $18 with a cart. That's too high.
Yeah. No, it's nuts. Like the states where people are like mass migrating to right now, right? Moving to all that stuff, still crushing it. It's the Northeast states, it's the Midwest, it's the Mid-Atlantic that we're really seeing big drops in. And some of that is correlated to season, but again, just doing year over year, exact same time period. That's
like
where
demographic shift too.
Drop.
Like people are moving out of those states, like you're saying, and they're moving to Florida, right? Like, or Arizona because cheaper, or Texas, right? Like, no one's moving. I mean, we have a lot of Californians here now. Like everyone just does California and moves
Yeah.
here because cheaper.
Yeah. It's interesting because we've just started speaking with a couple clubs in Northern California, and they're struggling big time. So it's like these little areas, these little pockets are getting hit. These other ones aren't.
So how do you find clubs? Like, is there a list of like every single private club in the United States, and you just start working that list essentially, or how does that work? I have no idea. Like, how do you find the private clubs to work
I mean,
with?
most of our stuff is just references from existing clients, from people that have heard of us. They
Word of
understand.
mouth.
A lot of word of mouth. We've just recently, again, because we've kind of structured it out to now where we can scale. We have a head of partnerships, Tyler Vandermeulen, who's out there just hunting clubs, talking to people, figuring out, would our
Setting up
services
meetings,
match
trying to
up
get
for what they're
meetings,
looking
trying to
do.
introduce you guys. Like, let's talk to you about what we do. Pretty
Yeah,
lucrative.
and what we do, honestly, is it's pretty simple. Like, all we do, we come in, we do a complimentary assessment of their club. We look at their categories. We look at what they've done the past few years, pre-COVID, during COVID, see what type of growth they have, see what their goals are, and then see if, it'll work for them, see if it makes sense for them, see if it makes sense for us. Because every single club we've been in, every single one, we've raised their initiation fee. So like, say a club starts at $5,000. They have a $5,000 initiation fee. We come in and we raise it up. Like, we're getting clubs from $5,000, $10,000 up to $30,000, $50,000 now. And so that's massive. We pay for ourselves and then some, bringing in massive amounts of
Yeah,
capital
just
for this
in the
club.
initial couple of months, it's like bam, and they're like, holy crap. So like everything after that, it's like they don't care. They're happy. It's not, they already can see the light. It's not like, oh, give it a year. We'll slowly.
Right. A massive dues line that's stable, they can operate a great business. If they have a fluctuating dues line, it's really hard to budget, really hard to do business that way. So that's why we want to raise the initiation fee. It's just common sense, right? It's like the higher initiation fee people pay, the less likely.
But if you're a member already, let's say I was a member of a club, and then it's like $5,000, so I pay $5,000, and then you guys raise dues to 30. Am I still grandfather? I already made my next year. I have to pay $30,000.
No. So you have two different.
You're like locked in at 5 because you're grandfathered in.
So two different things. So you have an initiation fee. That's what I'm talking about, and then you have your monthly or annual dues. Right? Initiation fee is a one-time payment to get in the club. Hey, here's $20,000. I want to become a full golf member, and then after that, you start paying your monthly dues, $600 a month. Right? So if you're a member, you never have to pay another initiation fee again. Right, you just pay your.
Oh, you're saying you're saying, oh, I see. So like the newbies, like I come in, I'm a new guy, I want to join the club. You're like, okay, it's $30,000, not 5 anymore. Exactly. And you're like, okay, fine, I'll pay it, and then you still pay the $600 like everybody else. But now they got dues. They still got $25,000 more on one guy than they did on the last guy who wasn't like that before.
Members love that. Like, existing members love it, right? Because they're like, oh,
yeah, they ain't going nowhere now. They're like, oh hell no,
I'm at a 50 again.
Yeah, because once they know what the fee is, they're like, oh, they think they're cool. Number one, because they got for 5, and they're like, hey, I'm at a $30,000 initiation club, and they think they're hot shit because it's a more expensive club to be in. It's all like mental. This whole thing's like mental.
Oh, it's for sure mental. Like, the psychology behind it all.
So much psychology in this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god. I thought it was fascinating on the show. So I'm like, this is a different world.
That was one of the first books I read when I was really trying to kind of hone in on this craft, was The Psychology of Persuasion. Have you ever read that?
Oh, is it good?
Oh, it's good. It's worth a read.
What's it called?
The psychology. I think it's The Psychology of Persuasion. I'm Googling it too. Just make sure I got that right.
That's a dirty book. I don't think that's the right one. I'm just kidding.
Because of the implication.
I'm just teasing.
Do you watch
Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion? This has to be it.
That's it. Yep, that's it. It's a good one. It's worth reading. It just talks about how these little minute things can make the difference. I'll give you an example. Okay, so
I want to hear. I love this shit.
There is this one case study that they did where Girl Scout cookies, right? This one girl was every single year she was the leader across the nation of selling Girl Scout cookies. And they're like, what the hell is this girl doing? So they were like, all right, we're going to kind of analyze her, see what she's doing. And so literally the only thing that she would do, right? You see Girl Scout cookies typically outside Publix or whatever grocery store
Yeah.
is around your hometown. And so all she would do, she would load up on just little carnations or little like inexpensive flowers. And all she would do is, as the people would walk out, she would just hand them a flower. That's it. She would just hand them a flower, and she had her little booth set up, and boom, it triggered this like innate thing in our mind that like, hey, if someone gives us something, we feel the need to like reciprocate that, right? So boom, get a little flower. It's like, all right, I'll buy a box of cookies, and that was it, right? So like these little subtle things that can be done just to like enhance experiences, right, lead to better sales. Like they just do. And so that's what we imply a lot of. It's not manipulative. It's not
I think you've hit on the head though too. Like you have to be a giver, not a taker, right?
That's
so
right.
what you guys do is you give and you give and
Yep.
you give, and you'll take at some point.
Yep, that's right. You kind of have to do it in membership sales too, because
100%.
it's not like it's not insurance. It's not a car. It's not anything that's like necessary at all. It's a lifestyle enhancement product. So it's like you have to understand how to sell that. And again, going back to like us secret shopping clubs, whenever we come into a market, we secret shop all the clubs around, just kind of see what's going on. And you would be shocked.
And you see how they act, and you see like,
God, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's like literally that's where I'm just like, our thesis is kind of like, everything's going to kind of revert back to normal. I still think golf is in a great place. It's going to continue to grow. But like the processes have not changed. Like when we inquire, so many times we don't even get responses, right? Or if we do get kickbacks, it's like this automated kickback with all of the pricing, this super long, we call it data dump email, where it's just like all the information. It's just like, holy shit, like
there's like no personalization. There's no
none.
touch. There's no feel. It's like a help support line in India.
It's all.
It's like,
and so like one of the things that like I mandate is that like if someone inquires, you call them instantaneously back within minutes, right? Like you drop everything you're doing, you call, right? You find out what they're looking for, you talk to them,
answer their questions, try to set up a meeting,
get them in person, treat them for lunch, treat them to a tour.
Let me show you around. Let us show you around. See what we got. See if it's the right fit for you. You might not like it. You might.
And you get
give them a carnation.
Yeah, hand them a flower right when they walk in.
You should do that. That should be a test.
And then you get the whole club
test.
Yeah,
everybody gives them a flower. They all walk in, like everybody just sees them give them a flower. They're like, what the hell?
Everyone just gets all weirded out and leaves.
Yeah, I totally like you put like a lei on them. You're like, welcome, and you're like a freaking club in like New York. Like, here's a lei.
Like,
you're like, oh,
like, what are you gonna kill me or something? This is weird. Yeah. No, the
like cult, they're all like wearing like white outfits.
We do actually do a little bit of that. Like whenever someone comes in for a tour and plays golf, we usually put like a little gift package in the cart for them, all that stuff. So again, you just want to display like, okay, you want to become a member at this club. Like we figure out the reasons why. Is it because of golf? Is it because of camaraderie? You want to meet people? Is it because of the social events? Like you ask all these questions, and then you cater the tour specific to that, right? Like as opposed to just being like, here's what we have. We have this. Here's our application. Let me know if you want to join. It's like, okay. So
no, we gotta know who you're selling, not as their intention for being there, not so much who they are as a person, but like what are they looking for,
exactly.
And can we give that to them? The other thing is too, you gotta make sure you can give them what they want, because if you can't, they're just gonna get pissed off and they're gonna like sign up and they're gonna quit. And they're
that's
like,
right.
Bullshit.
No, and that's why I said like we give a really good tour, we give a really good process, we treat people right, we're honest. Like I have said, when back up 5, 6, 7 years when I'm actually selling memberships, there's countless amounts of times that I would say to people, hey, I don't think this is probably going to be the best fit for you. I think you maybe should go and check XYZ club. And a lot of times they would still join the club because they're like, well, wait a second, this could be a good fit for us.
But you were honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it wasn't like, no one likes being sold.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like, who likes walking into a car lot? Like nobody, right? Like that's the last place on earth I like walking onto.
Right.
And so it's like, because you're gonna get your ass kissed, you're gonna try to get sold the whole time.
Yeah.
They're not gonna let you leave.
Yeah.
It's like all this bullshit, right? And then it's like, if you just make it easy for somebody and be like, whatever you want to do is cool.
That's it. And that's how we train, right? Like we have this entire, it's like a 3-week training process that all of our people go through. And that's one of the like core fundamentals is like, yes, like we are trying to get a yes, obviously, but we're also like trying to get a no. You know what I mean? Like a no is fine. I'm totally fine with someone saying no to a club, right? Like you said, it has to make sense for them. What we try to do is figure out what are the people's wants, right? Is this going to be a good fit? And then we try to help them make a decision on where they want to be, right? And if it's with us, awesome. If it's with another club, great. We'll stay in contact. Maybe you have a friend that's a good fit for here. So, yeah, and I think you look.
It's not a hard sell.
It's not a hard sell. It can't be.
It's not like you're getting a timeshare in
exactly.
Mexico or some shit.
Right. You bring them into the room, don't let them leave until they buy. I mean, we are salespeople. Like people definitely are going to get answers out of people, but it can't be a hard sell. It's a life.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Well, it's like you want the right person for the right club, essentially, and is it the right fit? And that's the perfect scenario. So
yeah, we're looking for long-term members. Like that's another thing that we pride ourselves on is like there's a lot of companies out there that will imply like these preview style memberships. They'll have like their membership base go sell it for them, and they'll discount the initiation fee. They'll do a year of like preview style dues, and they'll get a lot of people, right? They'll get 100 people. But what we've seen is like 40% of those people will leave. And what's happened after that is it's devalued your club, right? So now everyone's like, well, shit, I want that deal. It's like, well, yeah, I bet you do. So we don't
have that anymore.
Yeah, we've had to come in a lot of times after those clubs and kind of clean up the mess a little bit, reestablish the initiation fees, reestablish the integrity of the membership, do it the appropriate way. And again, like ours is not like this. Sometimes we come in and it's a quick hitter and like, boom, we knock it out of the park. But a lot of times it's like this slow growth strategy that we have. And I think
you have to test it. It's trial and error. Like you don't know what you're stepping into. Like you kind of have an idea, but like you don't know the whole thing until you try it. And like, oh, that failed. Oh, that they don't, whatever. I mean, you don't know. It's like every new club is a new experience. You have, right? Essentially. Yeah. Well, that's crazy. I mean, I didn't even know.
Yeah, it is.
I don't even know this world. Like, it's just nuts, man. I mean, it all makes sense.
Isn't it so weird how many people, like, there's so many businesses out there. My mind is always blown with how many businesses are out there and how people make a living. It's pretty cool.
It's the internet. Change the world.
It's true.
Where can people find you guys if they have a club, or where can they find you?
Yeah, go to our website, www.capstone-hospitality.com. You can email me directly at brian@capstone-hospitality.com. My cell phone is 561-445-7448. Look at that. Boom.
Whoa, holy crap. You're the first person to ever get out their cell phone on a podcast.
Man, I tell you what, it's probably dumb.
You're going to be a lot of you-know-what picks.
Fans. It's actually pretty funny. I said this on one of the last podcasts I was on, but it's kind of good, but it also, can backfire a little bit. Like this isn't a backfire. It's actually a really good story. So my wife's going into labor. It's 2222 and I'm in the hospital and we're like getting to the zone, the push zone, right? Like we're like, I think looking back on it, it's like an hour and a half out of when our daughter actually came. And I get this phone call. I'm like, I don't know this number. And then I get a text right after it. It's like, hey, Brian, this is Tom from Nemacolin Woodlands Resort. He's like one of their top guys there. I saw you on so-and-so podcast. Love that you gave out your cell phone. Sorry I'm texting so late. Love to talk to you. I'm like, Tom, I really want to talk to you right now, but I am in the hospital. My wife is she's laboring for our first daughter right now. Is there any way I can set you up with a couple of our other guys? And he's like, oh my God. He's just like loved the fact that I responded and all that. So
you're a real person.
Yeah, exactly. So now you can
I think in a world that I think it's true, like in a world that there are so many faceless things, like I think people like that. We've lost that. I feel like on the internet, at least, like, or at least in the world of business, like you don't know who you're talking to and why. And I think like that personal connection, like, I don't know, people just want to find the right person.
Yeah. I'm a phone call guy. I don't really like emails, like I'll do emails, obviously.
It takes forever, dude. You could bang out in 2 minutes on a phone call. It takes 40 minutes to write the damn email.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd rather have a Zoom call. Let's have a Zoom call. Let's just talk about it right now.
I love Zoom.
Figure it out.
I love it. We jump on Zooms all the time. It was like that was a lot of obviously negatives with COVID, but I feel like that was one of the positive was Zoom.
Everybody has it.
I'm like, we're in the future now, man. I'm like, look at this. This is like Back to the Future stuff.
It really is. If you think about it. Like I was watching something, and I was watching it was a video, and the guy was like, "Oh, why don't you make it was like a 10-year-old on YouTube video."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, why don't you try out this new thing called Skype?" And I was like, "Oh my god, that was and Skype's like the worst." And it's just funny because now it's just an accepted thing. Like, oh yeah, Zoom call. Unless you're at a big company,
it's pretty cool. Yeah, and then also we're always looking for new staff. So I mean, if you're someone out there that's a hustler and you want to get into the golf business, or maybe you're doing sales for another industry and want to kind of switch it up, we offer really good compensation packages. Like on average, our people are making $100K plus a year. You get to work in a great environment. We do company retreats, all that stuff. So, I think our email for that, I should probably know this, it's careers@capstone-hospitality. It's also on our website. Just go under the careers tab and we'll set you up, bring you down to Florida to the beach to do some training too.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Brian will let you go golfing with him, and he'll give you some golf lessons.
No way, man. It's funny, it's so bad. I'm starting to get the golf bug more and more, but man, I don't play just even close to as much as I should. But
dude, how old are you? You're probably what, 34, 35?
Close, 37. Thank you for saying younger.
Old man.
Man, we had some friends in town this last weekend, and it was my college roommate, right?
Oh,
he has a 4-year-old son and a 7-year-old son. And he's looking a little banged up, just like I am. It's like we've been in business.
Really banged up. You got a baby, 5 months old. What are you talking about? Whatever.
So this
give me 10 years. You're gonna look like me.
Yeah. His son goes, "Oh my God, have you done the 10-year challenge recently?" I did that the other day, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" So yeah. So anyways, his son is looking at me and goes, "How old are you? How old do you think I am?" And he's like, 48. I'm like, "Oh Jesus!" And I'm like, "How old?" And I'm like, "Okay, it's probably perspective. How old do you think your dad is?" 34. I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You think I look 14 years older than your dad? You little SOB, get out of my house." So anyways,
that's funny. Well, it's awesome. You guys, you got to check it out. If you're in the club world, which I'm not, but it's really interesting to find this all out. If you own a club or just have questions, you got to reach out to Brian because he knows what he's talking about and can help you. And I just think it's fascinating, just this world. I've never been in it, so I don't know what to say or to expect. And I thought it was cool to learn about it and find out really all the facets, of that industry, because it's not what you think it is, right? It's not as easy. It's pretty complex. So thank you for being on the show, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Let's do it again. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
You're going to beat me at golf?
Stay connected on and off the show by visiting golfersauthority.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Golf is always more fun when you win.
Stay out of the beach and see you on the green.